Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for my second live Periscope show for Pain Nation with Ken McKim. I'm Ken, and appreciate you making the time to join me this evening or morning, depending on where you're watching in the world right now. This is going to be a little bit different from some of the other Periscopes that you have seen. Basically, I'm not going to be interacting directly in real time with you. I will be paying attention to the questions and the comments that you are sending on the screen there, and we will try to address those towards the end of the program. But right now, I would like to introduce our guest. Tonight, we're going to be talking about something known as ulcerative colitis. Now, you might think, oh yeah, that's like Crohn's. Well, yes and no. It's very similar, but it is not at all the same thing. And we are very lucky because we have an expert on the subject. Her name is Amber Elder, and she is also known as the Colitis Ninja, and you're going to have a ball talking with her. Amber, thank you so much for making the time to be on the program today.
No problem.
So tell everyone a little bit about your background. How long ago were you diagnosed? About what age was it? And when did you realize exactly what that meant for your life going forward?
Well, let's see. It was 2011, January, when I started having symptoms, and I thought it was a stomach bug. And as time progressed, about 2 weeks in, I started having GI bleeds. And the bleeds obviously were a bit of a concern, but I just kind of chalked it up to hemorrhoids, and it wasn't getting better and wasn't getting better. I was 27 years old. I had been dating Dave for about a year, almost a year. And so it just kept getting worse. And finally one day I said, I should go to the doctor. I went to the doctor, and she told me it was probably either IBS or a bacterial infection. So she gave me antibiotics, sent me home, and said, if things get worse, come back with a stool sample. So 2 weeks went by, and it was like the beginning of February, and I wasn't getting better, and I was feeling worse. And actually, a couple of times at work, I was sitting at my desk and literally almost passed out at my desk doing nothing. And so went back to the doctor with my stool sample, and when she saw how much blood was in it, she said, I'm going to schedule you for an emergency colonoscopy. And so I didn't want to do that, and I went home and called my boyfriend, and I was like, she wants me to have a colonoscopy. I don't think this is necessary, especially if it's just IBS or hemorrhoids or whatever. And the funny thing is, my mom has Crohn's disease, and my aunt, her sister, has Crohn's disease, but nobody suspected that it might be somewhat hereditary because, the two diseases are related. But yeah, so the scheduling ladies called me, and actually Dave's mom called me before that and said, I think you need to get things checked out. It may be nothing, but it may be something. So anyway, I consented and agreed, fine, whatever. And the prep for that was an absolute nightmare. I couldn't keep the prep down. I kept throwing it all up, so I had to call the on-call doctor, and he told me, well, you really need to try to drink that stuff. It was movie prep, and I've heard a lot of people have trouble with that one. But he said, if it doesn't work, you go to the pharmacy and get some magnesium citrate, I think is what it is,
yes,
and drink that. So I went to go get it just in case, because obviously I want to get this over with as fast as I can and everything. But ended up couldn't keep the movie prep down. Tried several times, and so I started drinking the magnesium citrate and almost threw that up too.
Jeez.
So it was a really bad night. And, it was funny, though, because I was sitting there thinking, this thing is supposed to be doing exactly what my colon is already doing to me, so I don't even know why the prep is necessary. I don't know. I didn't have anything in me anyway. So,
right.
Anyway, the next morning, my mom, I woke up, whenever, and the colonoscopy didn't start until 1, and I couldn't have anything to eat or anything to drink. So I was basically miserable, and I didn't know what was going on with me, and I was crying. And finally, Mom showed up. We went and I got scoped, and after I woke up, I went. I guess the nurse wheeled me. It was hard, when you wake up from that stuff, you're kind of fuzzy. But she wheeled me over there to a table with my mom and my doctor, and she said, "So you either have Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis." And I looked at Mom and I said, "Mom, don't you have Crohn's disease?" And she said, "Yes, I do." And so that's when we realized the heredity factor to it. But I have, it's fun. The funny thing is, I have 3 other siblings, and I have been, all throughout my life, I have been the healthiest and the least accident prone of all 4. And now I'm the sickest, so it's kind of crazy. But yeah, so
that's quite a switch for sure.
Yeah, and I was 6 months away from my black belt too, so it was very frustrating for me.
Wow.
Because I had a plan. I was going to be a black belt that year, and I was just so excited, and that didn't happen. So
after the diagnosis, when did the symptoms really start to kick in, in force, and what did you try right out of the gate? Because as you said, there's kind of a family history of Crohn's, and so you were probably familiar with some of the options you had available to you for treatments. What did you start with, and what ended up working the best for you as you went through this?
In the beginning, they put me on prednisone and balsalazide, which is colazole, and they're these big, huge orange pills that you take 9 a day. But I didn't actually know. My mom has never been on any kind of medication. My aunt has had several surgeries, but she refuses to take medication, which is dangerous, by the way. But my mom has never really had big problems. In the beginning, she had problems with Crohn's disease. She was 18 years old when she was diagnosed, and they actually diagnosed her when she had acute appendicitis. So anyway, that's a long story. But I started out with prednisone and balsalazide. I wasn't getting better. Things kind of kept getting worse. I guess it wasn't really getting worse, but the bleeding wasn't stopping. So I decided to get a second opinion, and I'm glad I did, because the antibiotics that my first doctor gave me, I think, triggered a C. diff infection. And C. diff can be deadly if you don't catch it in time. So my doctor gave me a stool collection kit, and this particular doctor likes to do 3 of them, because he said sometimes you get a false negative, and he said so he had me give him 3 stool samples on 3 separate days, and sure enough, C. diff, and he gave me some antibiotics to kill it. And I finally slowly started getting better. And let's see, that was about April, I think. And so by June, I was in remission. So that was pretty exciting. It was a really tough first flare, but at that point, I weaned myself off prednisone like the doctor instructed, and all I was taking was the balsalazide at that point.
Now, if I remember correctly, at one point you had an operation, right? You had a procedure done called a J-pouch. Would you tell us a little bit about what a J-pouch is and why you had it and what difference it made for you?
Yeah, so in 2013, I started the worst flare of my life. And so I got on a round of prednisone, and I was excited excited as you can be on prednisone. Because I was like, okay, well, it'll knock me out of this flare, and I can just keep going with what I'm doing. And, they tried to get me off prednisone. I think twice before he said, you may want to try Biologics. Well, being the stubborn person and chicken that I am, I said, no, I really don't like the sound of Biologics, and I don't think I want to do that. And of course, I went on the internet, and what did I do? I researched cures or home remedies for IBD, which is also dangerous, by the way. It doesn't work for everybody. It may lessen your symptoms, but they're not cures. There's no cure. Right. So, I tried several diets. I got my blood tested for allergies, like food allergies. And I also I did the ALCAT test, which is basically testing for food intolerances, which is somehow different than the allergies, but don't ask me the technical differences because I don't know. So I cut out a whole bunch of food. I didn't have any food allergies, but supposedly I had like dozens of intolerances. I couldn't eat egg whites, but I could have egg yolks. I couldn't eat chicken, but I could eat turkey. And it was just really random things that most people, don't even think twice about before eating. Sure. But yeah. I cut all that out, and it didn't work. It didn't get better. Every time my prednisone, every time I would taper down to 10 milligrams, the raging flare came right back. So I tried, and finally I said, you know what? Now we're to the point of Biologics or surgery. What sounds worse to me? And I said, well, let's try the Biologics first. So we tried Humira for a couple of months, and that wasn't working. And so they said, well, how about we try Symphony? So that's a really obscure drug. I don't even know if it really has done much because most people have never even heard of it.
I've never heard of Symphony other than it's a chocolate bar made by.
Well, this one, it's basically the same concept as the Humira, but supposedly it works better for ulcerative colitis than it does. Than Humira does. Okay. It didn't do anything for me. I tried that for about 3 months, and I was actually on this diet, by the way, for about a year. I was sticking with it anyway, just in case, because I wanted so badly to have relief. Sure. But let's see. At the beginning of 2014, at the end of 2013, I was hospitalized for the first time. I had gotten so dehydrated that I couldn't even drink a sip of water. And that was very frightening. That was just a bad time. And Dave, obviously, I got married, by the way. Dave married me after the whole deal.
Good job, Dave. Congratulations.
Yeah, good job. He's awesome. So we got married in 2011, October. Forgot to mention that. But anyway, so this, he had to suffer with me through all that. I got out of the hospital, I think 3 days later. I got really frustrated with my GI doctor, though, because he walked in, he looked at me and he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, I don't know. I was kind of hoping you could tell me. And he said, "Well, you look fine." And I was like, okay, wait a minute. You're the expert. And I'm sitting here in the hospital because I couldn't keep any water down. How does that work? But anyway, he said, we'll just try. We'll keep you on the Symphony for a little bit longer and see what happens. So I stayed on it for about 3 more months. So let's see, we're getting into March. And the first part of April, we were tapering down from the prednisone again, and it just wasn't working. I was going back into a raging flare, and so we called my doctor, and he said, you know what, there's nothing really I can do for you anymore. You may want to think about surgery. And I guess I was kind of shocked, but I kind of knew it was coming. And so we went to the surgery consult, and he wanted to do surgery a week before my sister got married. And I said, no, Kim, is there any way that we can hold off? I want to be there for my sister. Her wedding is coming up, and I would really just like to be there for her. So he said, okay, and we planned it 3 days after my sister got married. So getting through that wedding was horrible. It was a horrible nightmare. They bumped my prednisone back up to 40 milligrams. My face swelled up like a balloon. My joints were weak and achy from the prednisone. And I had horrible hemorrhoids, and getting through mentally was difficult, but even physically, because, for me, whenever I took prednisone, it would make my knees ache so terribly that I would wake up in the middle of the night hurting, crying because it hurt so bad. So, anyway, got through her wedding, thankfully without a hitch, as much as you can say about that. And, the following, I believe it was a Tuesday, April 15th, which is also tax day, I had surgery, and during the first surgery, they removed my colon and rectum, and they also during that surgery they constructed a J pouch and attached it to my anus, and they gave me a diverting loop ileostomy, and that was just temporary until my second surgery. So that was my first surgery, and it went off. They actually got done a lot quicker than they thought they would. I think they said that I was in there for 2 hours, and so when my surgeon came out to talk to my family and my husband, Dave kind of freaked out. He was like, "Oh crap, there's something went wrong. He's out early. What's going on?" But it turned out I did really well, and I think I was in the hospital for about a week, and I got out and started living my life with a temporary ostomy.
And then you did that for a few months, and then they did what was called, I believe, a takedown surgery, where they put basically everything back and got rid of the pouch, correct?
That's right. It was exactly 3 months later, a month before my 30th birthday, and they did that. That's basically what happens. They just put you under and sew your intestines kind of back together, because you have a hole in there for the output to come out.
Right.
And then they poke your intestine back into your abdomen and kind of suture you up. And actually, during that surgery, they also took out a large scar from a small lemon-sized abscess that I had developed in my incision after the first surgery, which is also another crazy story. But anyway, so I've been living with a J pouch since July of 2014, and yeah, it's been pretty good. So I haven't really, I'm off all my medications right now, and I'm very fortunate, because there are some people with ulcerative colitis and a J pouch who still have to take medication because of the extra intestinal manifestations of the disease. But
exactly.
Yes.
So you've done all this, you've gone through all this, and obviously there are some shared experiences, I'm sure, with your family, with there being the history of Crohn's, now you with ulcerative colitis. At what point did you decide that you wanted to advocate for other people who have this condition.
Yeah, well,
where did the Colitis Ninja come from?
Well, as you know, I was a student of karate, and I had been for about 6 years, I guess. And it was during the absolute lowest point of my disease, right before surgery, right before I found out I was going to have surgery, and I was just having a rough time, obviously. And one day my husband and I were in the car on our way to work, commuting, and I kind of said, you know what, Dave, I think I want to blog about my experiences. And he said, okay, well, go for it. And so I kind of told him a little bit about what my idea was. And that night after I got home from work, I just got my little notepad and started doodling. And what took place was a little ninja with a dark suit holding a spoon, and she had toilet paper wrapped around her head, and I it instantly had a connection with her. She was my little manifestation of my frustration from my disease, and I said, this could work. And so I kind of played around with the name. At first, I was going to call her Ulcerative Colitis Ninja, because obviously that's the name of the disease, but I shortened it because Colitis Ninja sounds better.
Yes.
So she took place, and I got online, and I started got on Blogger and Twitter and Facebook, and just created some accounts with those. And it was really kind of silly in the beginning, but it's a lot more popular than I thought she would be. People really kind of have a connection with her.
Well, she's a really cool character. I love the drawings that you do. I read all the posts that you put up. And so what is your goal going forward with Colitis Ninja? What do you see her affecting in advocacy efforts as you move forward with this? Because as you've said, you've grown considerably from your humble beginnings on Blogger. And so what's next?
Well, there are a couple of things in the works. Really, at first when I started blogging, she was really for my benefit, kind of a therapeutic kind of thing. But as I started connecting with people, I realized that she is kind of a symbol of hope for people, not, myself included, because when I started blogging, I was miserable. I never laughed at anything. I was just, it was almost like a depression, I guess. And I just felt despair. But after creating her, I started feeling like I had a purpose. And, then I started feeling like if she could help me, she could help other people. And so not only, I guess, does she offer hope, but she's, there for encouragement and there for laughter, because sometimes the best medicine, I know it's cliched, but it's true. The best medicine is laughter. You can either sit there and cry about your disease and have pity parties, which is okay sometimes. Sometimes you need that, but you have to get past that and look at your life and notice that, things aren't always bad. I have, a cat. I have a husband. I still have a job, thankfully. I have a house. It could be worse. And that's I guess, I want people to be able to see that there are good things in life. Things aren't always bad. I go back to this quote, and I forgot who says it, but a bad day doesn't mean you have a bad life. And so so I guess just continuing to raise awareness for inflammatory bowel disease, and I guess kind of break the stigma that it is just a poop disease, because that's what a lot of people like to call it. But that's not all it is, obviously. You know, people, you know, there are so many symptoms. It's not just diarrhea,
right.
You know.
It's so much more than that, and people really don't get it. They really don't.
No, they don't. And you know, it's just one of those invisible diseases, you know, and there's a lot of them out there.
Well, so. Amber, I have to give you credit for everything you've done. It's inspiring to a lot of people I know, and I know you get a lot of pleasure out of doing it. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on to share and to talk about what you've been through and what your goals are going forward. Is there a website address that people can go to see more of the Colitis Ninja and everything that she does?
Yeah, it's www.colitisninja.com, and you know I'm also on Facebook and Twitter, and you can find it by typing in Colitis Ninja, and she's also on Instagram too. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, and I'm sure we'll talk offline again soon. So thank you.
Absolutely.
You take care.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
All right. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, well, there you have it. If you want to reach out to me, there's a couple of addresses you should know. First is my email address, ken@don'tpunishpain.com. You can always reach me there. You can also follow me over on Twitter @Don'tPunishPain. And then, of course, we have the website itself, which is, of course, www.don'tpunishpain.com. I have all my social media links up there. You can see all of my videos there, the Feel This Pain series, the Dear Healthy People series, which is a little more snarky, but a lot of fun. You should watch it. And that's all the time we have for today. Again, thank you so much for making the time to watch this live. I hope to have the replay up here soon. But until next week, Saturday, 3 o'clock, once again, I'm Ken McKim. You take care.